Welcome to Sharing is Caring, a podcast brought to you by Care Dallas. I'm your host, Fritz Deichert, a recovery coach, a board member, and someone who's personally walked through the path of addiction, education, and healing. This podcast is our window into the world of addiction, recovery, prevention, and everything in between. Each episode, we sit down with real people, survivors, parents, professionals, artists, educators, and leaders from right here in North Texas, who are willing to share their stories, their truths, and their hope. This isn't about judgment, it's about understanding, it's about connection, and most of all, it's about care. Because at Care Dallas, we believe that when we listen, we learn, and when we talk openly, lives change. So wherever you are on your journey, we're glad you're here. So let's start. Our maiden voyage, our first guest, episode 1, will be Robin Bagwell. Robin, thanks for coming.
Oh, I feel so honored. Thank you.
Yes, we're very fortunate to have you. So we're just gonna get going. We don't have an agenda, no boundaries. You can ask me anything. We can talk about whatever you want. But first, I want to talk about how you got involved with Care Dallas.
Gosh, it has been over 25 years. I was at a University Park Elementary School PTA meeting, and a lady named Susan Hutchison, who was the executive director for years at CARE, was speaking. And my parents were in recovery, and I just went up to her afterwards and said, I'd love to get involved somehow, thinking maybe answer phones, help stuff envelopes. Before I knew it, I was on the board, chairing the breakfast, and,
How long
still
ago was
involved.
that?
Gosh, my son's 30, and he was 7 at the time.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah,
Okay.
a long time.
Yeah. And you've stayed involved ever since, even when you got off the board,
I have.
Yeah.
I have. I always support the breakfast, and I love the work they do. I've seen it, firsthand. People call me often needing an interventionist, needing a treatment center, needing to know where a meeting is for just women, and I can always give them CARE's number, and they'll help them.
And you're in recovery too.
I am.
Yeah.
I am.
Since 2002, April?
Yeah. Long time. It goes
Okay.
fast.
So, did you have a moment that led you there?
Well, I did. Back, gosh, it was 2002. My kids were young. One of them was spending the night with my mother. One got asked to spend the night with a friend, and my husband was out of town. And I was kind of having a pity party, and I had been drinking with a friend, and I decided I'd just hop in my car and drive to Shreveport. And I drove to Shreveport.
What were you doing in Shreveport?
I went to the little Horseshoe Casino.
Okay.
And I gambled. I wrote checks. I got money out of the ATM, and then, only let you get a certain amount out of the ATM, and they would only let you cash 2 checks. And all of a sudden, I find myself 2 in the morning, out of money, and no hotel room. And so I get in the car and I drive home. And I get home about 5 in the morning, and I fall asleep. And at 7, the phone rings, and my father was in San Antonio for Fiesta. And he woke me up, and I thought, oh gosh, I had the worst dream. And then I realized it had happened. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just start crying. And my dad said, there's help for people like you. I get a discount at Betty Ford if you want to go there. I can lend you the money if you need to take some time to tell my husband Norm. And I said, no, I'm just going to tell him today and deal with it. And so he got home at 9 o'clock, and I opened the door, and I reek of smoke, my black mascara under my eyes. I've been crying, and I'm telling him it's so awful. And when I told him, he said, we can get you help. And he just hugged me. And the next day, I went to my first AA meeting. And I really wasn't sure I belonged there. I really kind of looked around the room, and I thought,
Oh, you compared
I
differences.
thought I'm better than these people. I haven't gotten a DWI. I haven't lost a job. I'm not divorced. I haven't, lost my kids. And I just said, God, if you want me here, send me some kind of sign. And when that first meeting was over, I went to Mariano's for a room mom happy hour for my son's class. I was the room mom, and I ordered a Diet Coke. And everybody's telling me, get a margarita, come on. And I said, my kids, they'd asked me to quit drinking so much. I'm going to try to honor it. And a mom beside me was drinking coffee, and she said, drinking broke up my first marriage. I don't drink anymore. If you need help, call me. Well, as the night wraps up, we're walking out to our cars, and I'm telling a story about my parents. And I said, my father looked at my mother, and he said, Weta, what do you, and she stopped me, and she said, are your parents Jim and Weta B in Fort Worth? And I said, yes. She said, your mom got me sober in 1984. She was my sponsor. And I knew God was hitting me in the face with the 2x4. And
Yeah, there was your
I
sign.
kept going back. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was April 2002.
Yeah. And I still go.
Congrats, that's a
Not
long
as
time.
often. And,
Right.
you know,
And you're open about it, and you talk
I'm
about it with
open
your
about it.
friends.
And you know what? I'm every bit just like everyone in that room.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's what they say when you go and don't compare differences, look for similarities.
so many
Yeah,
similarities.
because addiction doesn't really know any bounds, right? Doesn't matter where you're from, skin color,
That's right.
background. Okay, so you said your dad, you called your dad. So he seemed pretty okay and open to the idea. Was he?
My parents both got sober in 1984.
Oh, wow, okay.
My father passed away in 2009. He had 25 years sobriety. And interesting enough, in 1984, he woke up one night and he was throwing up. And he thought, I don't remember drinking red wine. And it was blood. His esophagus had ruptured. And my mother called 911 and they said, it'll be faster for you to throw him in the car and get here. Come now. And my dad opened the refrigerator and grabbed 3 or 4 beers and chugged them on the way to the hospital. And the doctors told him, if you keep drinking, you will die. And he stayed sober for a little while, but he went back out. And once he walked it, they told him, if you quit drinking, there's no reason you couldn't live another 25 years. Well, he walked in the
And they
doors
were
of
right.
AA. He lived exactly 25 years. And what ultimately killed him, he had liver cancer. And the day we found out, he went home for hospice and died the next day. It was
Real quick.
covered up by the cirrhosis and the scar tissue.
And so that was 2009. So he got to see you live in sobriety for 7
Oh, yeah.
years. And did y'all, was it just the best
It
bond
was
ever?
the best bond.
Yeah.
And my mother has 40 years. She's celebrating 40 years this summer. She's still hysterical. She's
Yeah,
so much
that's,
fun to
she
be
lives
with.
fun in sobriety. And it seems
She
like,
was fun drunk, but she's just as fun sober.
yeah, that's funny. So my mom's been sober. She got sober the first time I went to treatment.
She was sharing that with me.
Yeah, she went to an Al-Anon meeting and the times didn't work. And she went to an AA meeting and she said she just kind of walked up all of a sudden, got a 24-hour chip. And so we have that bond too. It's kind of fun. We go out and people ask, why don't y'all drink? And we're like kind of this duo, right? And our whole family knows it. And so I can't imagine what it was like with your dad being older and getting to share that his last 7 years.
And he was a blackout drunk. I mean, my mom likes to say he was an alcoholic that hit rock bottom and she got off on the top floor. People didn't realize she had a problem, but she had several blackout episodes and, you know, hindsight, she did. And I was more similar to her.
So did your dad, did he function while he was when he was a drunk? I mean, was he working? Was he?
He did. He functioned, and you know, he was the kind. He would come home. He would go to happy hour at like maybe 2 o'clock and stay in the 19th hole playing cards, and come home and just fall asleep. You know, they called him. The CB handle was the shades because his eyes would just drift shut,
And then he was done.
fall asleep. And you know, there were, you know, we were in New York and he, you know, passed out at the table and you know, he would fall asleep on airplanes and they would have to get a wheelchair to get him off.
And what did your dad do for a living? What was he doing during this time?
He was, he had an automotive business,
Okay.
but he was really like a contractor. He put together deals. He was on city council. He was in local politics.
And this is in Fort Worth,
in
correct?
Fort Worth.
Okay.
Yes. One of my favorite stories, he would go down to Acapulco a lot and he booked a massage at the Princess at 9 o'clock in the morning and had been drinking since he got up and he passed out on the table and they couldn't wake him up the whole day and he had to pay for the whole massages because they couldn't use that room.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So he got after it.
He got after it.
And then he kind of hit bottom and he decided that it was time.
This time.
And was he AA?
He was AA. He never went to treatment.
Yeah.
A man named Clifton Morris in Fort Worth one day they were on the golf course.
Okay.
And my dad had quit drinking after the incident with the esophagus. And the beer cart came around and my dad got a Diet Coke. And Clifton said, why aren't you drinking? He said, well, because it's going to kill me. That's reason enough. And Clifton said, you'll drink again because you're an alcoholic. And when you do, call me and we'll get you help. And my dad's like, he is crazy. Why? It's going to kill me. I will not drink again. Well, he did. And when you go back out, you just go back to the lowest point. You don't start off having a beer now and then.
No.
He had a doctor that said, "You can't drink scotch, but there's no reason you can't have a beer." And he was drinking like a case a day. And he called Clifton, he took him to a meeting, and
So it's pretty amazing because there's a lot of people that they know they're going to die if they keep using and it doesn't stop them. And it's funny because people that are normies, right, don't have addiction, they don't understand that, right? And I always try to tell people that I don't understand how you can have a glass of wine at dinner and leave the second glass half full and get up and leave.
I don't either.
Right.
That's still all these years
Right. Makes
later.
no sense. Why not just eat ice cream instead of having that wine and the
Or,
calories?
or I would be the type I'd have to finish the last sip before they took it away.
Right. And maybe
had the
you're
other
the
one
person
right
next to
there.
you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny because it blows people's minds that people don't stop when their life's on the line. And you being in sobriety for so long and being around your parents, I'm sure you've seen it. And it's hard for people to grasp that.
Well, I don't know about you, but I find people say, "Is it so hard not to drink? I can't believe you haven't had a drink in so long." I think it's easy not to drink, but I think it's impossible to drink in moderation.
Yeah, there's
If you
no
said I could have a glass
there's
of
no
wine every
moderation.
day, I was like, why? Why would I just want a
Okay,
glass?
so do you have moderation in the rest of your life?
No, I do not.
No, you
No.
go pretty balls to the wall,
No, I
everything
know
you do.
if I'm on a diet and I've been doing great and I go off, it might be 10 pounds gained before I get back on it. I mean,
Yeah, that's me. It's like if I'm eating healthy and I drive by a Taco Bell, I don't just get one burrito. I get 8 pounds of food and it's gone before I'm out of the parking lot of Taco Bell.
that's me.
Yeah, but then have you put it to good use? Like going your non-moderation, like gone all in on care, or I know Jan Osborne mentioned you were part of another charity with her. Have you learned to channel it?
Um, Not really, but
No.
I'm just aware of it. And so,
Yeah.
I know if I'm going to go get a Snickers, I'm going to get two and I'm going to eat them both.
Yeah.
And I don't do it every day, but
But you're aware.
I'm aware.
You're conscious
I'm
of it.
aware,
Yeah.
and I know if I drink, I may never get back in AA.
Yeah. It's hard. There's like the shame part around it, right? Or you just want to go, right? People always ask me, or do you ever think you could drink? Or I used to get asked, could you go to Napa and do the wine tour?
Okay, we did, and it was awful.
Yeah.
We went on a trip and we're in this private room in some cave, and it was like a 3-hour dinner, and they're trying all the wines and they're swirling them and they're smelling the aroma and they're talking about. I said you might as well take a blind person to the Louvre and talk about the vibrant brushstrokes and the
Oh,
colors.
I like that. That's good.
And I usually don't have a hard time and I'm fine when other
Right.
people drink, but I was like, this is miserable.
Right. And yeah, and people asked, could I do that? Right. I got sober younger. I was 23, and in my head, I say, if I planned it out in my head if I could have one drink, I would be, okay, I want to have a martini. And then it would be, okay, but then I got to try a seltzer because I never tried seltzer because they weren't around. And then maybe I should go to a doctor and get a prescription for Xanax. And then, okay, well, I'm going to need something to bring me back up. So I'm doing cocaine. And so now in my moderate drinking, I've done 3 drugs and I'm drinking myself into a blackout. And it's funny, people don't understand that, right?
Right.
We do. I get what you're
Yeah.
saying. I get the no moderation in anything of life. So, okay, you got sober. How old were your kids when you got sober? And how many kids do you have?
I have 2 kids.
Okay.
They are 30 and 32.
Okay.
So they were, young. I think 2nd and 4th grade.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So maybe they don't remember mom drinking.
And they kind of do. They remember a time there was a tornado warning and we're going in the closet and I'm grabbing my bottle of wine and they're like, "Mom, do you really need that?" I'm like, "I really do." We go in the closet with the dog and the 2 kids and my bottle of wine.
Yeah.
But they grew up. My parents took them to AA meetings when they were young. They
Okay.
would go to, and so they knew the AA thing. And when my daughter was 12, she said to my mom, "Where's my chip? I've never had a drink and I've been to AA meetings." And so my mom gave her 12-year chip.
That's awesome. So your kids grew up in it, in that
They
environment.
grew up in it.
Okay. So then did they get the bug? Did they get it?
They didn't. They didn't.
Wow.
They did not. My daughter did not drink until she was 21. She was in college in Waco, and she was going on spring break to Florida. And she was so excited because she was going to drink, and she lost her driver's license. And she's the only person back then that did not have a fake ID.
Yeah.
So she calls me, and she's like, "I really want to go out," and so I FedExed her passport to her. And the funny thing is, later on, she's about to go get a new driver's license, and she gets a call from a friend of hers that's in South Carolina in college, and he's on a date with somebody, and they pull out their fake ID, and it's Lauren's driver's license. She found it in Florida, and he took it from her and mailed it to Lauren.
So her driver's license went
Texas
to
driver's
Waco
license,
to
lost
Florida,
in Florida,
South Carolina.
Yeah, back to.
Wow, what a tour.
I know. I know.
And that's kind of nice that she got to use the fake ID, right? I mean, everybody need them
yeah,
in college. Okay, and so she didn't get the bug. What about your son?
You know, I was afraid he was going to because he did the normal teenage drinking.
Okay.
And I'd said to him, you know, you need to be careful. You know, your mother's an alcoholic. You know, your grandparents are alcoholics. And, you know, how can you party and like normal college
Right.
partying? And he said, Mom, you knew Gigi and Papa were alcoholics when you were in college, but you didn't quit till you were almost 40. This is
Oh,
my path, and maybe one day I will have to quit, but this is my path. And you know, he can drink socially when
and how old is he?
he's 30.
30. He
About to
said
have
that.
his first baby.
Oh, congrats. So will I be
thanks.
grandchild number 1?
Yeah,
Excited?
yeah, so excited.
What's your name going to be?
Rah rah.
Rah rah.
So they'll cheer when they see me. Rah rah.
Oh, nice. Okay. And where's your son live?
Here on the M
Oh, so you'll
Streets.
get to help.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that'll be exciting. Do you think your kids didn't, since they grew up in it, do you think there was part of their environment what caused them to maybe not test the waters? Like for me, my mom in recovery, you know, she drank. I think of my mom as kind of fun party. She made these drinks. They were called Red Roosters. They were like slushy drinks. That's kind of what I think of. But I didn't, you know, I started doing drugs very young. I don't think it had anything to do with my environment, right? My dad wasn't a big drinker. I didn't see it, like I said, with my mom. I mean, I know she did. It was partying but my brother, he grew up in the same exact environment and he's a normie. Do you think you think it was an environment thing? Because
No, but I do think, you know, I quit judging parents. I used to think, oh, they're just too lax or they just are blind to this. And, you know, I raised my kids exactly alike. And one chose to wait till she was legal age and the other was partying at 15, 16, you know, I don't know, maybe older. But, you know, you raise them alike and they turn out different. And I think
Right.
some of it's just genetics.
right. That's cool. I think it's interesting how families work like that, right? In my work, I work with families where it's generational and it just, you know, as soon as it's from their great grandparents, their grandparents, their parents, and then them, and it's just this cycle that they can't break and almost becomes normalized.
Everybody on my father's side of the family, he's one of 4, was either in recovery, dead because of the disease,
Yeah.
or in jail. I mean,
And then your mom, and then you, and then did you have siblings?
I'm one of 5. I'm the oldest of
Oh,
5.
you're the oldest.
Yeah.
What's that age gap between you and the youngest?
You know, at one time we were 13, 15, 17, 17, and 19.
Oh, you have twins.
No wonder my parents drank.
Yeah,
huh?
no, yeah, of course, yeah. And
Yeah.
so, okay,
And
any of your
only one other of the 5 of us has the disease, and they're not as open about it. So,
Okay.
but they have a year.
I'm glad you brought up the openness. So, you know, at CARE, when I go around and speak, we talk to moms of all ages, dads. Me and Dr. Lee Spencer will do fentanyl awareness, THC awareness, things like that. And I get asked the question a lot when we open it up. What do you think needs to happen on the addiction side? Like, what can we do to combat it? And I always say, talk about it. Let's be open, right? I go into all these households and these families don't want anyone to know that their son's struggling, that their wife's struggling, that their husband's struggling, and they kind of keep it close. And I laugh because I could drive down from between 75 and the toll road between Forest Lane and Mockingbird, and I can go down every street and point out a house I've been in, right? But they don't talk about it. And I think that the more we talk and share, the more you share it, and then somebody you meet at the tennis court, their sister's struggling, so they call you and say, hey, can you help, right?
It's
Because you're open.
frustrating.
But how could you be their resource if you were closed?
Well, and my husband grew up in a family where you didn't share anything and everything stayed in those 4 walls and you didn't talk about it.
Yeah.
And, you know, when I first said, he said, do we need to send you anywhere? When we knew I needed help, I said, I'm just going to go to AA. He said, I think that's great, but we're not going to tell anybody, are we?
Right.
And he was dead serious. And I said, he's come so far because he and I spoke at a recovery resource event last September, and in front of 200 people, and he was so open. And now, he has people call me, and
Yeah, I just kind of got the chills because that's cool. What a turnaround.
yeah, and over the years, care, like it was Bank One at the time, I believe. He was president of Bank One, and he had an employee that was going to quit and go to treatment and needed help and needed a lot of time off, and he called and they referred him to an outpatient care, referred him to an outpatient thing in
Right.
Fort Worth, and he was able to go,
Get some
still
help.
work, get some
Yeah.
help, and it saved the bank a lot of money. They didn't have to train a new person. They got to
Right.
keep,
And your husband knew about it,
and
right?
they knew about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not, I think back to when I was younger, and if, when I was getting in trouble and using, it wasn't happening as much. Now the high schools have huge problems. Lots of kids have been to treatment. They've tried drugs very young. And I was kind of an anomaly back then, right? When I was 13, 14, and I don't think my mom had anyone to talk to, right? I think if we were in today's world, my mom would be one of the ones shouting it from the rooftops, right? Fritz has a problem. There's stuff going on. And I was open. I went to an AA meeting when I was 15 and heard somebody talk, and I knew I never had a problem admitting it. I just didn't
Yeah.
want to stop.
Yeah.
And so I think, I like what you said about your husband, that he came around. My dad, through all the BS I put him through, he was always kind of closed, right? He grew up he had there were 5 of them, 4 boys and a sister. Their dad died when they were young. They never talk about it. I give my uncles grief. They're not very vulnerable, right? I have my mother's side of that. I wear every emotion on my sleeve. And so my dad never really talked, right? We went to the care classes at the Y. He was just pissed we were there. I got arrested. We had to do a court mandated thing. He was pissed we were there. IOP pissed we were there. And then the last time I went to treatment, we're in a room. It's just my dad. He came, and it was family weekend. And there was probably 25, 30 clients and then their family members. And we were going around in a circle, and people were talking about, the family members were talking about how we affected them. And my dad was standing there in his sunglasses inside, and I was thinking, oh, this is going to be, who knows where this is going to go. And he was the most honest I've ever seen him about how worried he was about me. He started crying. And now my dad, he'll talk about it with anyone.
I love that.
He has no shame around it. No, like, we joke, we'll be at the golf course in the 19th hole, and we talk about all the crap I put him through. But then, we don't just talk about that. We talk about how it is now. And I've heard my dad speak. He talked at something for somebody retired that worked for the Texas Rangers, and he brought up me struggling while he worked up there, and that how much it changed, and this person who had retired, how much his life affected me. And it was really a cool deal. And so, again, I think that we can throw fentanyl awareness. We can talk all about it. Billboards everywhere. I think it would help if you just went to your next door neighbor and been like, hey, I've struggled. Because then maybe they tell you they've struggled, and they find, you feel like you're on such an island, right? I mean, I'm sure you've experienced that.
Well, when you go to your first meeting, they pass around that little packet and they write their name and numbers. And one of my neighbors was the first name on the list, like a few doors down. And
Did you have any idea?
no idea, no idea.
Right.
And then my son's at a different job now, but his last job, there was a coworker that said to my son, kind of embarrassed, well, I can't. I'm in AA. I'm in Alcoholics Anonymous. And my son said, oh, my mom's in the other one, the one that's not anonymous where you tell everybody.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's good. Because, okay, so we're gonna go another step. So the producer of the show, Jan Osborne, your best friend, I think, one of your best
Yes,
friends.
definitely.
I adore Jan. I want to hear how y'all met. I don't think Jan told me this story, and I don't think she'll mind if we talk about it. But how did you meet Jan?
So I was playing tennis out at Dallas Athletic Club,
Okay.
and I go out on the court, and I had recently, this was in the summer, so I had quit drinking in April 2nd. So it'd been a few months, and
Okay.
I had lost a bunch of weight. And everybody's like, oh my gosh, Robin, you look so good. Jan's like, what? And I said, well, I've lost some weight. And she goes, well, I just can't picture you fat. And I
course.
tell her I gained it back, so she'd see what I look like. But I said, well, I just joined AA, and she said, well, I have an eating disorder, and
boom.
boom, we.
And I don't think she had told a lot of people that,
No,
right? And
she
so,
said she never told anybody.
right, and so there, right off the bat, a stranger, you come in, you say something. And I mean, how long have y'all been friends now?
Yeah, I was, gosh, over 20 years.
Okay, and then
Since
she
I
said
bought
that you talked about had about to start with CARE, you were part of CARE, and she was with another nonprofit, and so did y'all make some kind of deal? I think she told me.
You know, we did, and I just went off the board of New Friends, New Life. She was involved with that charity, and
And
she's
you were with
still
CARE, so
involved with
y'all
CARE. Yeah,
oh,
I
still
mean,
involved.
just
Are you kidding?
yeah, I know.
We're very grateful for Jan.
Yeah,
Yeah, and so I just the openness, and we've met, I think, but I've heard all about you just through
and I've
CARE
heard
and
about you and people you've helped, and they're always
right,
like, "How?" They'll say to me, "How can you be in recovery and not know Fritz?" You know?
right, kind of same with me, and I think we're very similar. That I own it, right?
Yeah,
I don't give a shit if people know I'm sober, if
yeah,
that's and I think I have more fun
yeah.
because I can't get in trouble. I can be loud and obnoxious and goofy and silly and maybe walk right up to the line of that line or that cliff, but I can't get in trouble because what are they going to do? I'm dead sober,
Yeah.
right? So there was no with you, no repercussions with the law. You never got arrested.
And now again, I was one that got off on the top floor. When I was talking about going to AA that night with my husband, he was saying, "I really don't think you have a problem. I think it's just a bad habit. You pour a glass of wine every day, and you're just used to it." And he's such a normal person. He's just like, if you're in a bad mood, you're not depressed. You just need to take a shower, put on your favorite outfit, and turn the world around. And
Right.
he can do that, but I couldn't.
Right. So did he finally get it?
Well, he did, and after I'd been sober, several months, he's like, "Oh my gosh, please don't ever go back again," because he noticed, there were no arguments, and not that there really were before, but I think I was just a
It's
nicer
probably his
person.
normal too. He's always saw you. That was kind of your baseline. So maybe he did just think, when my mom and dad had the battle when I was a kid, my dad said it's just a phase. And my mom,
No.
well, yeah. And I went to, I'm sure you did when you were a kid. I had a parent that I knew where to go when I was in deep trouble, right? And it was my mom. So she knew my deep, dark. And so my dad said, kind of fought the same thing. And I run into that too with clients, which is their parents, one of them knows and the other one's not sure. You think it's denial? Do you think your husband didn't want you to have a problem? Or you think he just didn't see it?
I think that it wasn't, again, I said I got off on the top floor,
Yeah.
and so I think, every people that don't have problems have maybe one instant where they got drunk and embarrassed themselves,
Right.
but they're not alcoholics.
Yeah. They fell
And I
down or
think, one night we were at a charity for SMU, and we were guests of the bank he worked for. And it was a Mardi Gras theme, and there were little streamers and confetti on the table. And I was at the table by myself, and I was just kind of dropping the streamers and the little flames on the little candles and the little confetti. And all of a sudden, one of the streamers went, and the tablecloth caught on fire, and the waiters come over, and he's like, "Okay, we're going home." And there are things like that
yeah,
when
of
I'm like,
course.
that's not normal.
No, no, no.
But
Yeah, you became a little pyro.
yeah,
So you get into recovery. How did it affect your marriage?
it made it better.
Yeah.
And I think my husband ended up needing a kidney transplant, and we did that in 2006. And so I've been sober 4 years. I don't think
Yeah.
they do so many health tests. I just don't think I would have been a candidate if I was still drinking
So
the
look
way I
how it
was.
worked out.
Yeah.
And then emotionally in between y'all, did y'all get closer through it all? Were you
Oh
more
yeah.
present? Yeah.
Yeah, I think we have a great,
And then
great
how'd it go with your
marriage.
kids? Did you see a difference from, I know second and fourth grade, you said when you got sober, did you feel like you were more available for them?
More present.
Yeah.
So the way I describe it, I would drink wine every day around 4 o'clock, starting with the homework, or other moms would come over and the kids would play in the backyard and we'd order pizza. And then, I'd keep drinking and it'd be about 7:30 and I would just be zoned out in front of the TV or just not present
Right.
and not pass out drunk, not life of the party fun, but just zoned out.
Yeah.
And I think once I quit drinking, I was more present, which isn't always easy,
Right.
but
That's cool. So
yeah.
it did you
I definitely noticed a big difference.
yeah, and I'm sure they did too. And I'm sure they're grateful for it. So when you were growing up, Fort Worth, your dad and mom, we talked a little bit before, they seemed like they were pretty wild. fun.
Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I think your dad and I probably would have been good friends.
Yeah, for sure.
And was that your normal as a kid? Were y'all just you and your siblings, just like
You know,
mom and dad are the life of the party? And
it's interesting because when I was dating my husband, I was seeing a counselor,
okay,
and I kind of thought
what year are we in right now?
80s,
Okay,
mid 80s.
okay.
And I just thought he was kind of boring.
Your husband?
Yeah. I mean, I just thought I would start fights. Like,
Oh, just for some action.
right.
Yeah.
Like he would be going to play golf
Just like every
Saturday and
addict.
Sunday. And I would be, if you love me, you wouldn't play golf the days.
Oh,
that-
you're stirring the pot big
Trying
time.
to stir the pot. And he would say, well, I do love you, but I'm going to play golf. Bye. And this counselor explained to me I was comfortable in chaos. And when
Yeah.
things were normal and good, I got antsy and agitated, and
Yeah.
I didn't know how to be in a normal relationship.
Right.
So I had to work on that. And, I said marriages have their ups and downs. And my husband is like this, and I'm like this. And just depending where I am was how we were doing. And it's really made me appreciate now. I do not like chaos.
Yeah.
Love the normal.
And it's pretty incredible your husband did stay like this through it all,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
I mean, I've been in
He's
relationships where I wish I could stay like that, whether it's intimate or friends or whatever. It's hard not to take the bait, right?
Yeah.
And you were sending the line.
Sending
You
it,
were
yeah,
casting the
big
line.
time, big time.
Okay, so do you think you thought it was boring because your dad was the opposite of boring?
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, my dad was a big spender, gambler,
So you lived in chaos and it
lived
was
in
normal.
chaos. Yeah.
Do you have any stories you remember, like spots where it was like, holy cow, my dad is off the rails?
Oh my gosh. My mother, there were 5 kids. We were all stair-stepped, we were all teenagers at
Right.
the same time. And growing up, she didn't want to drive a station wagon or a van. We didn't have the cute SUVs back then. So she got a limousine. She drove a black Fleetwood Cadillac limousine. And we go down to Padre, and my dad and all his, my dad's friends all drank like him. So
Right.
it wasn't like,
He wasn't the outlier. He was just in
No.
it with his buddies.
and he would get drunk and put a flag on the front of the car and drive around the public beach throwing candy like he was some dignitary.
In the parade, the 4th of July parade.
Yeah, or,
Like a dignitary.
I mean, one of his stories, I'll have to give you a copy of his AA tape,
Okay.
or I have it downloaded, but he tells a story about he was running for Congress against Speaker of the House, Jim Wright, and a man named Eddie Childs.
And he was not in recovery yet during this.
He was not in
Okay.
recovery.
All right.
And a man named Eddie, but he quit drinking just during the campaigning.
Okay.
And crazy. And Jim Wright was the #1 Democrat in the nation, and he was going around the country helping other Democrats get elected. And so Eddie Childs wanted my father to keep Jim Wright locally campaigning so that he can travel to help these other Democrats.
Right.
So he wasn't expected to win. So he takes this guy comes in for a meeting, or he's speaking at a fundraiser for my dad, and my dad takes him to the airport, and they're at the bar, and the guy says, how do you feel when you lose this race? And my dad said, well, I'm not going to feel bad. I'm not expected to win. I'm doing what they needed me to do. And he said, oh, you will. It happened to me, and it will kill you. And my dad said, but I guess he's okay today because he's president of the United States. And it was the first George Bush.
Oh, no way.
No, it was second George.
Second
George
W?
Yeah. He'd
Wow.
come in to speak, and
So did your dad, did he have his antics when he was running for public office? I mean, was he behind the scenes still out of his mind, or was he
no, he really toned
he
it
bared
down.
down and went for it?
Yeah, but then when he lost, it really kind of spiraled.
Yeah.
There's a lot of debt associated with it, and
Oh, was there?
yeah,
He burned it down.
Yeah.
And then he burned it down, he built it back up? Your
he
dad?
did. He
Yeah.
did. Back in, when he got sober in 1984, he made a list. He was in debt. He had $3 million in
debt.
1984 in debt. And he made a list of every bank he owed. There were like 20, 25 of them, 200,000 here, 100,000 there. And he wrote every one of them. He said, I could declare bankruptcy today and be done with this, but if you'll be patient, I will pay you back. And he did contract work, and so checks would come in randomly. And if he got a check for $10,000 and you were 8% of his total debt, you got 8% of that check. And he did all that till he paid them all back.
And he did.
He did.
How long
Took him 18 years. Yeah.
Wow. I bet that was awesome to write that final check.
Yeah.
So your dad was pretty, there's some people that are in recovery and they hit it hard on one side and it was, fun and they have these crazy stories and then they hit it hard in recovery. And it sounds like your dad hit it hard in recovery. I mean, he just went
He did.
after it.
He helped so many people, and I mean, people would come forward later and say their brother died and the funeral was in the mountains of Colorado, and they look up and there's my dad. And, he was just there for people. And
That's kind of ahead of his time, right? I mean, AA in the 80s and being a man and having a prominent job, but being outspoken about it, right? I feel like there's a lot of guys that when I came into the rooms when I was young, the older guys, I didn't want what they had, right? I'd go to old Preston group and you could smoke inside and they're in the corner and they're chain smoking cigarettes and they're grumpy and it's don't talk for the first year you're in the rooms and just read the big book, work the steps. And I was like, these guys suck. They're grumpy. It doesn't feel like they live, right? And so it sounds like your dad's the opposite of that,
well,
right?
and they tell you to find a sponsor who has what you want. And
Exactly.
like one of his sponsors is like thought he had a lot of money, a cool car, beautiful wife, and anyway, he was his sponsor, and soon found out that wasn't all it appeared to be.
Oh yeah, it was a facade. Yeah, because I just always had an issue with these people that were, in recovery and in the rooms. It was awesome. It was very admirable. They had a lot of time, but it seemed like they were just kind of uptight and grumpy, right? And I feel like I might be even more wild in recovery, right?
Yeah.
I just kind of say whatever comes to my mind. You seem kind of
And
the
I
same
think
way.
my mom's like that, and
Is she?
yeah,
Um, well, I think we could talk for hours.
yeah, absolutely.
My producer Jan's giving me the let's go. I really appreciate you coming.
You just tell Jen she's not the boss of you.
That's right. That's okay. That's fair. I like that. But no, I'm a little scared. She's
Yeah.
probably the boss of me, not you. But we appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
I can't believe we hadn't met, but this is a good.
Yeah.
I feel like
Yeah, I
maybe
think
we
we'll
make
get
some.
together again.
Yeah, maybe go up to Oklahoma.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate you coming. I want to thank my producers Jan Osborne, Caitlin Garza, and Peter Pursley. Thanks to Junior Haley and Dulce at Polecula Media. Sorry, I kind of botched that. Shout out to Rigsby, the studio support dog. And once again, thanks, Robin.
Thanks so
I
much.
appreciate it. And thanks for listening, everybody. And yeah, that was episode 1.